Do you have a friend who likes to talk about the future? They'll say, when I'm older, I'm going to get really into working out. Or, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to be reading every day. If you want to do it then, why not start today? Let's adapt that to football. Say your team has the ball in the opposing final third. Your teammate thinks, we'll keep the ball, and in a few moments, we're going to score. What if we try to score right now? Welcome back to sinceresefc. Today's episode is about the most unique star player and manager in the Premier League today. Let's begin. One of the newer big names in the Premier League is Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. This is his second season as Aston Villa's star player. Last season, he was one of the league leaders in progressive carries from midfield. In the media, people talked about Morgan Rogers bringing joy back to football with his courage and directness. What makes Morgan Rogers unique? Let's look at his usage rate. First, let's look at Aston Villa this season. You can see Morgan Rogers over there. He's next to fullback Ian Maatsen. But among Aston Villa's midfielders and attackers, he's the furthest player to the right. That's what makes me call him their star. Perhaps you don't agree with me. Here's a list of the people who are furthest to the right for their team this year. These are the ball-dominant people. Are they all the stars in terms of their playing time and their results? No, but they play like they hope to be. But there's something different about Morgan Rogers. Despite looking like a star in terms of using the ball, he's way down here in terms of creating opportunities for other people to score. Last year, when we were first talking about these numbers, I made the claim that players below this line were wasteful. But is that really true? Over 50% of the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed, so if that's you, give us a shot. What I originally did to account for how much your team had the ball was simply scale your numbers. What might have been more appropriate is moving the line. Teams who have the ball more typically have more shots. Efficiency is relative. Suppose this team takes between 7 and 8 shots per game, whereas a different team takes 4 shots. 4 shot creating actions per match might not be much at Arsenal, but it might be a lot at Everton. Since this team shoots less, we interpret the relationship between usage and shot creating actions differently. Looking at a team, the slope of this line should always reflect that difference. Here's Aston Villa, with the dashed line adjusted to their number of shots. Even once I move the line, Rogers is decidedly below it. So what's going on here? Let's go away from stats and look at some game film. Rogers usually starts in the middle, but he rotates positions, and he's always trying to go downhill. Downhill is like a synonym for direct. When Rogers picks it up in these positions, he doesn't seem to think, how can I give us control of the pitch? Or how can we get it to the open man? It's more like, how can I get the ball forward? And how can I set up a chance for me? Why does it feel so fun to watch? Rogers, and Villa in general, don't do a thing that teams with lots of players above the line do, which is playing in a way I can only describe as unselfish. This usually manifests in a shape like the one Liverpool is in here. Tifo Football's JJ Bull once described this as the donut of sadness. We've got the ball, and we're in control, but we're also not moving the defense at all. Villa try not to do this, and Rogers makes sure of that. To be an attacking midfielder is like playing point guard in basketball or quarterback in American football. You're supposed to get your teammates involved. Rogers does it, but not in the same way. He knows, even though he's not the striker, he's the biggest goal threat, and he uses that threat to open things up for himself and hopefully his team. It's not fair to call him selfish, but he doesn't defer very much. So given that he doesn't play like some other stars, let's look at players who have similar numbers to Morgan Rogers. First, you have these two number 10s, I think we could all agree neither of these players is playing very well. One of them left. Then you have a handful of strikers. These players all play for teams who don't really have the ball. Those teams give it to those players to try and hold possession up the pitch. That's why they lose it so much. Then you have a handful of wide players. Like the number 10s, I think it's hard to argue that any of these players is having a good season. Next, you have Jefferson Lerma and Thomas Soucek from midfield. They give the ball away a lot, but they also win it back a fair amount. Finally, you have the majority of the league's fullbacks. Using usage rate and shot creating actions to look at fullbacks isn't a good tool to look at their efficiency because it's skewed by how far away from the goal they are. You're left with two players, Dango Ouattara and Morgan Rogers. Dango Ouattara, we're going to talk about him in the next video. But for now, my claim is that he's not had a good season for Brentford. So, we have Morgan Rogers located next to a series of players who are either not playing well or not near the goal. And yet, he's been lighting it up. How does that make sense? This recent interview he did with Jamie Redknapp might give you a little bit of a clue.
It feels like a crime way of scoring, XG kind of putting you down, but if you actually look at the chance and the shots we're hitting, they're good options to take. We're not taking pot luck shots. There's different ways to score goals, I think. I don't think there's a wrong or a right way. Yeah, you might look on paper and think the percentages are against you, but not if you keep doing it. There's got to be a point where if you keep doing it and it keeps coming off and people keep scoring and the same thing, patterns keep happening, it's like, this isn't luck.
Why do you think Morgan Rogers says that XG is a load of nonsense? Regardless of whether you agree, the chart we were looking at can tell you something about it. Rogers is the driving force of Aston Villa, whose manager is Unai Emery. Aston Villa appear to not believe in the footballing philosophy of controlling the game by having the ball. They want to have their best players attacking directly more times per game than you. And they trust that the shape they make behind those players will let them score more than you. It's one of the few instances in which a top team has a negative correlation between having the ball and winning. Across their last 15 matches, when Aston Villa have more than 50% of the ball, they average around 1.4 points per game. When they have less than 50% of the ball, that goes up to over 2.4. Here are some recent examples of other Premier League teams having success with this style. So what's so different about Aston Villa? None of these teams' star player was a central number 10. Leicester City won the Premier League playing 4-4-2, but Riyad Mahrez was a wide player, and on a usage versus shot creating actions chart, he'd be way up here. Nottingham Forest used Morgan Gibbs-White, but he was not their highest usage player. He was tied for third, making him more similar to someone like Emi Buendia. Newcastle's star player was striker Alexander Isak. They still play with no central attacking midfielder, as their fans will tell you. Chelsea had many star players, from Oscar, Eden Hazard to Willian and Pedro. But those are all above-the-line players. Oscar might be similar, but he was never Chelsea's star player the way Rogers is for Aston Villa. This uniqueness might come from the coach's tactics more than the player himself. For the younger fans among us, you may not know the full history of Unai Emery. This is the same manager who made his name going toe-to-toe with Bayern, Madrid, and Liverpool while managing the likes of Sevilla, Aston Villa, and Villarreal. In the fall, I saw a popular post about the return of what you call Maverick players in football. Thanks for the shout-out, by the way, the purist football. They talked about the re-emergence of players with the freedom to create, like Jeremy Doku. When healthy, I believe Doku is the best of a certain type of player in the Premier League. He is resetting the standards on creativity. But he's also a different type of maverick from someone like Morgan Rogers. Jeremy Doku is good at what he does because he doesn't give away the ball. That's exactly what we talked about last season. But Rodgers, in a way, is kind of a maverick. He's far away from the league's creative stars, and yet he's fourth in assists. He's adjacent to the players in bad form, and yet he's playing great football. Or maybe the real maverick is Unai Emery. Am I somehow hiding something with these stats? You might think shot-creating actions are stupid. If we use XA, assists, or XAG, he'll look way different. But no, he's still in the middle of the pack, and way below the star creative players. Morgan Rodgers broke my understanding of player roles using this data. When I compared hundreds of players, I thought, above this line are the efficient players, in that red area are the more wasteful players, and the majority of forwards are somewhere in here. And maybe we're still somewhat correct, but to call Morgan Rodgers wasteful neglects a key part of football: courage. The problem with how we analyze sports and life is that you're only considered wasteful if you fail. What Morgan Rodgers really is Aston Villa's primary risk taker. For many midfield stars, taking this risk also means frequently trying to create for others. Morgan Rodgers knows the best person on Aston Villa who can take that risk right now is him. Let's conclude here. I am not saying a number 10 has never played this way before, or that Unai Emery reinvented direct attacking football. But Emery's ethos has always been about the counter-attacking game. And in Pep's Premier League, where possession was once the key, the counter-attacking manager is finally finding success with a star player who doesn't believe in the dogma of possession and low risk. None of this is a coincidence, because they needed each other. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment below with what other parts of the game you want to see covered, and I hope to see you again on Sincere FC very soon.